On this episode of Deleted Wrestle Zone, we're going to talk about MLW and Triple H Super Series, which took place on March 23rd, but they decided to cut pieces in 5 weeks. As you know, MLW are not currently doing any live production due to the fact of the COVID virus, but they decided to present the entire series in 5 weeks. So we're going to review many of these matches that they have. I'm not going to put in any of the interviews, but I will stop in certain moments that make sense what's been going on. So let's get started with another episode of Deleted Wrestle Zone.
Are you ready? Get up, get up. 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 Get up, get up.
Hey everybody, welcome to Deleted Wrestle Zone. Everything that we talk about is pro wrestling from NXT, AEW, New Japan, MLW, NWA, and so many more promotions out there. We even talk about matches, whatever we can talk about. So on this particular episode, I hasn't been talking about Major League Wrestling, or as we call it, MLW. Reason is because I thought, you know what, I can compile all of the super series that they had between both AAA and MLW. So I thought it would be a perfect opportunity to do that instead. So, as you know, MLW hasn't done any live shows in recent weeks because of what's been happening with the world and this and that. Court Bauer, the founder, is saying that he has no intentions, even though Florida has been declared as a business state where they can bring back pro sports, and MLW fits in the category. But the reason that happened is because uh, originally MLW was from New York and then they moved to Orlando. So I don't know if Court Bauer is reconsidering due to the fact that right now we are seeing many promotions. They're deciding to throw in wrestling shows without crowds in empty arenas. We already seen that with AEW, WWE, now Impact, even AAA are doing that currently, even after they did the Super Series. We are seeing also many promotions such as from Japan. I know Pro Wrestling Noah has been continuing ever since because they had the Global Tag League. Stardom has, no wait, Dragon Gate has done it, and very others. But this particular event that they conducted took place on March 23rd in Tijuana, Mexico. This is when before um, it was declared the COVID virus is now becoming serious. Um, I wasn't there because, since you all know, I live here in San Diego and it was happening across the border. But let's just talk about what matches took place. But also want to remind all of you, you may have heard recently there's been some scrutiny going on with the refs down there from both sides, from both MLW and AAA. Now, AAA refs, what they do is they were counting many of their wrestlers faster, like 1, 2, 3, just like that. As you know, the standard with the refs when you do a count out, it's 1, 2, 3. That's what it is. But if it's a wrestler that these guys don't like, then go 1, 2, 3. That's always like that. It's always been like that down in the Mexican promotions because there's the the heel refs and then there's the faces. I've seen that for a long time, and I don't think MLW didn't consider that maybe the refs are playing that type of game, or maybe because we still have that whole thing with U.S. versus Mexico, that type of thing. I don't know, but I'm not gonna get all political on that crap because that's not what we do here in the Leader Wrestling Zone. But also, I want to remind all of you, this is the 60th episode I've ever done, and I wish Nico was here with me to do this because I feel I started it with him. Me and him talked about this. he always declared me as the brains behind this, and he's the guy behind the camera. So that's pretty much it. All right, so let's get started with the matches that they had. One of the matches they had was a tag team, which is a Tijuana street fight between Pagano and Mortiz versus Mance Warner and Savio Vega. Now, this is like your typical type of street fight, but things are way more extreme than we see here in the U.S. They bring tables, ladders, and chairs, but also what they do. There's a moment in this particular match where Mortiz lights up the table and he tries to burn Mance Warner, but instead Mance Warner burned him instead. So yeah. So that's what happened. You're probably thinking in the back of your head, really? That's what happened? Yes, you can watch it, but I've seen it before. Because these are wrestlers that done extreme wrestling. We've seen that with Savio, Mance Warner, Mortiz, Pagano. Extreme wrestling is a bit popular down in Mexico. If you guys don't know this, I will do a discussion about that in about extreme wrestling, hardcore wrestling, however you call it, down the line. But let's talk about this. So this was a match that went through on. But here's what happens throughout the match. As you know in the storylines, Alexander Hammerstone has issues with Mance Warner since he beat MJF and sending him packing. Basically, loser must leave town. And MJF, originally Hammerstone was in commentary, but he did not like how the match was going. Ref didn't do anything. He just couldn't do it because, even though this was a street fight, basically anything goes. So the winners of this match was Pagano and Mortiz, you know. But this rivalry between Mance Warner and um, Alexander Hammerstone is far from over. But I do know Savio Vega still has issues towards Richard Holiday for stealing the Caribbean Heavyweight Championship, even though he claims that he won it, even though he didn't, and all this and that. So that's what happened. The next match that came about was I think is oh here it is Laredo Kid versus Alex Hammerstone for the MLW National Openweight Championship. Now this is one of those matches where there is no weight class on this one. It's kind of like similar with the Never Openweight Championships that we've seen with New Japan, but it was a good match. I have to say, it was one of the best ones I seen. Uh, I think some companies promotions should do openweight championships because that's interesting. We don't need to do the whole heavyweight and junior heavyweight type of thing, but that's just me thinking is a good idea. But man, this match was great. So, but in result, Alex Hammerstone won this match completely. So that all those two matches were in week one for what's happening. So, and let's go to week two matches that they took place. One of the matches that they put in was Dublin James versus Arveno. If you guys are not too familiarized with Dublin James, he was a very popular local wrestler that I've seen here. I think I seen him only once. It was at Baja Stars for the Baja Star Cruiserweight Championship against Hammerstone and Danny Limelight, but Limelight retained the title. Arveno, he's a veteran wrestler. He was one of the popular wrestlers in Consejo Mundial until he shipped to AAA, but he lost his mask, and I know many wrestlers have a hard time trying to continue without, but it was a good match. But the match, the way it ended, I thought it was like, I don't know, it was a good one. It was where Arveno sucker punched him or knocked him out. Who knows? But it was alright. I mean, I'll give it a C minus, if you know what I mean. Next match, it was a tag team match between Team Filthy, Lawler and Guarini versus Puma King and Extreme Tiger. If you must know, here's a background story. Extreme Tiger is a native of Tijuana, Mexico, and he was trained by Rey Mysterio's uncle himself, the original Rey Mysterio. So, if you guys want to take a look at him, check it out. But here's the funny part. At first, when I first saw Extreme Tiger, I thought it was Ray, but it wasn't. The guy was a little bit more shorter, but he was wearing a similar gear as him. If you remember, he had one of those kind of leather pants, baggy ones. He was doing the same thing. But yeah, but this match was mostly was like this has put out a lot of effort. This one was a really good tag team match between both Greeny and Puma and Tiger because we know the backgrounds from Garina. He is a jiu-jitsu specialist, and Lawler is MMA specialist. But this one, I liked how Puma King and Extreme Tiger actually put a lot of their effort, try to hold their own with guys who are better fighters than them. Even though I'm a fan of Puma King and Extreme Tiger, but I say it was a great match. I enjoyed it, but sadly they lost. Team Filthy continues, even though with the shenanigans where they are disrespecting the Von Erichs. Next match, it was another tag team match. It was between Los Mercenarios, in translation that means the Mercenaries, Tejano Jr. and Rey Escorpio Jr. Versus the Hart Foundation and the Hart Foundation, Brian Pillman Jr. and Davey Boy Smith Jr. Now, prior weeks ago, Brian Pillman was stomped into a cinder block by Injustice. No one knew if he was going to be 100% okay, but he seemed okay. And they put their best match, and they became somewhat a fan favorite to the Mexican wrestlers because the Mercenaries think that they're better than everyone else because they think all Mexicans are a bunch of no good low lives because they are the mercenaries that can do whatever they want. But Brian Pillman is a big fan of the Mexican wrestling style, and he's very open minded about them, how they wrestle, and he really appreciates their culture, and that's what makes him the fan favorite for everyone in that uh, during that because imagine his dad being proud of him doing all that. But it was a good match, I'm not gonna lie, and it resulted the Hart Foundation taking a win on this one. So I say it was a good one. You know. Now we go to week 4. This one was a not an MLW versus AAA match. It was just all Mexican wrestlers. We had Black Dynasty, Fantastic, and Rey Star versus Poder del Norte. Now I'm familiarized with Poder del Norte. They are one of those heelish factions that are in the northern part of Mexico, as Mexicans like to call them, norteños. You know, so that's how it was. I'm not. I'll just skip ahead on this one, even though it had no reason to play out, being part of the whole, you know, thing. The Poder del Norte won the victory. Now the next match, this one was for the AAA Trios Championship match. This one was a match that was set up a while ago. It was supposed to be the Injustice versus Hinientes del Aire, which stands for the Air Raiders. Since this match was proven, the Injustice has been trying to say they are planning to take those titles away from them, proving that they earned them more. But it was an interesting match. They were throwing every match every the Hinientes del Aires are the fan favorites. One of the wrestlers named Hijo del Viquino is a double champion. He is not only a trios champion, but he's also the cruiserweight champion. So he has more gold, and I doubt Myron Reed would want to get that title. So anyway, during this match, it seems that there were some good spots, high flying and all this, but the best part was when all three members of Injustice has Mystices Jr. in a submission hold. They thought they had it won. Here comes Brian Pillman, who still has a little payback against these guys. What he does, he spits beer into their faces. Basically, well, to Cota, Brazil. And he was already out, and then he spit back again while leaving his teammates back in the ring. They got super kicked by Mystices Jr. and Octagon Jr. And that kind of gave. And then all of a sudden, Cota Brazil grabbed the chair, tried to win, but Brian Pillman Jr. grabbed it and he got super kicked as well. While Mystici Jr. and Octagon took out the remaining members, Hijo Viquino took out Cota Brazil by throwing the 360 flip on him, which was effective to retain the trios title. And this is far from over between Brian Pillman and Injustice. They're going to be complaining that it's unfair that they lost, but hey, you started this mess. You picked on the wrong Pillman. So that's what happened. Now, finally, we go to the final week 5. We had just one match. It was a 6-man match, which was Psycho Clown, who was picked the team leader, had to pick the best wrestlers to face against Los Parks, which is LA Park, Hijo de LA Park, and LA Park Jr. They are known as Los Parks or La Real Familia, which means the real family. They really are a faction, and if you must know, they do have other family members that are not using the park name, but that's how they consist. So Psycho Clown picked 2 wrestlers that he knows they could get the job done. He picked Nino de Hamburguesa, or in translation, um, Hamburger Kid. And the next person, everybody knows him. He is a Tijuana resident, the original Psychosis, Nicho y Millonario. So I have to say it was a great pick, and it was a great match because even though LA Park said he's not currently signed with AAA with none of these companies because he's a freelancer, but it was good. I'm not gonna lie, but sadly, the Parks won this match as always. But this is what happens at the end of the broadcast. Contra Unit decided to say that war is imminent, knowing that they're going to take control of MLW, that their way of life is done, that the Contra's way taking over MLW is going to be the future, and they're going to take control. But if anybody rises, the Death Squad soldiers, will be waiting for them. So I don't know what's going to happen once they get back. It's still unclear, like I said, if Court Bauer is going to resume operations but with no crowds. I'm not sure yet. He did say that he's not moving the MLW brand down to Florida, but we just got to wait and see. There's always a saying, never say never. So I think that's pretty much it for today, and I will see you guys in the next episode talking about the Wednesday Night War. Since today is May 13th, which is a Wednesday, I will get back to you guys the following day on that because I gotta wait for the results for the views and the ratings on that. So stay tuned for episode 61 of the Wednesday Night War. So I must bid all of you adieu. So goodbye, and have a nice day. Bang!